Wisconsin Eye's 2014 election coverage is brought to you by the Wisconsin Hospital Association. For over 90 years, a valued voice for Wisconsin hospitals, supporting high-quality, high-value care in communities like yours.
Wisconsin Eye is at the Medford Public Library interviewing candidates in the 2014 elections. We're interviewing Mr. Dane Deutsch of Rice Lake. He's a Republican candidate in the 25th Senate District. Dane, welcome to Wisconsin Eye.
Well, thank you very much, Steve. It's great to be here.
Programming note, Wisconsin Eye appreciates the support of the Wisconsin Hospital Association, which represents more than 139 hospitals and health systems, for making these candidate interviews possible. Dane, I think when Wisconsin thinks about Northwest Wisconsin, they may start to think about that mine issue. So why don't we start there? Let's talk about your position on Gogebic proposed mine in Ashland and Iron County, because it would be in your district, sir.
That is correct.
And then I imagine the Frac Sand mining issue has come up also. But let's talk about the proposed iron mine, sir. Your position?
Yeah, my position is that I totally support it. In 2010, I actually wrote a press release supporting it. I believe that with the regulations and the technology that we have today, that we can environmentally mine in a way that is friendly and will support our environment. So,
last week, the company said they may limit it to Iron County and not mine in Ashland County. Would that be a good change?
Well, I think we want to have mining wherever we can, especially for creating jobs and helping the local economy. I mean, people up there really need jobs, and it doesn't matter. This crosses all the political boundaries. So we need to have jobs, and Ashland, it's unfortunate if we can't get it there, but I think it will be a benefit to all of the economy in North Wisconsin.
The critics are very worried about the potential threats to the environment. Are you convinced it wouldn't hurt the environment, which is so important to this corner of Wisconsin?
Yeah, you know, I am really concerned that we keep our environment safe and sound and available for future generations. Having grown up in Minnesota and Brainerd, I was not far from Crosby Ironton, 15 miles away, plus went to Bemidji State University where I got my first degrees, and we had a lot of friends from the iron mine range up there, you know, from Hibbing and Pengale and a lot of those places. The Democrats over there support mining fully, and I don't really see a problem with us being able to do mining and do it in an environmentally safe and sound friendly way.
The frac sand mining has exploded in western Wisconsin.
It definitely has.
There seems to be two debates. The state government should set minimal standards and local governments couldn't go beyond that, or it's purely a local control issue. Where do you fall on that question, sir?
Well, I think there needs to be a balance. I mean, there needs to be accountability at all levels, so I think the state needs to have some accountability for the local control, but I really believe in the local control. You know, I'm a veteran, and we believed in delegating down to the lowest level. I just met with a frac sand mine this week, and the things that they're doing with the local townships is incredible. Giving stipends back to them and renewing their roads on their own without actually being legislated to do that is exactly what we want. So partnering with those local townships is critical, and I think we're seeing a lot of that down there in the Rice Lake and South area, and people are actually growing economically because of that.
Let's turn to school issues. You list the need for quality schools in rural areas as a major priority of your campaign. Are you saying, well, let's cast it forward. When the next state budget is debated in the Senate and aid to schools is debated, what are you going to push for in terms of representing a rural district, sir?
Yeah, well, I definitely am going to fight for funding for our schools in our district. As you know, we're rural. A lot of our schools are rural, so that transportation aid is really critical, and I'll fight for that as well. We had that in the last budget, so that was approved. A lot of the schools would not be in the situation they are today, in better shape financially without that transportation aid. I don't want to see the schools dissolve or consolidate any more than they have. We don't want the kids to have to be bused further from their school than they already are now. So I would be totally in favor of funding the schools, and as I always have, and specifically because I'm a teacher. You know, we have our own gymnastics training center. Some of the kids come from an hour to an hour and a half away for the quality of instruction, both in character, discipline, as well as gymnastics. And we have 10 to 15 different school districts that are represented there every single day. And so I am totally in favor of making sure that we fund the schools and keep them healthy. That is the key to our future workforce.
Part of the debate is whether to continue to expand the choice or voucher schools. Your position on that, sir?
Yeah, I believe in the choice of schools. We see happy families all the time who chose not to go to one school and maybe went to another school 6 or 10 miles away. Because of sports or because of music or whatever the strengths that that particular school has. I think that the voucher and the charter schools are only going to help to improve the education by more competition. Schools right now are doing very well in our area. I think even though people have moved, it pretty much has assimilated so that it's even out across the schools. And I think that it's been a healthy choice for Northwest Wisconsin.
This summer, Governor Walker, as you know, asked the Senate and the Assembly to withdraw Wisconsin from the Common Core standards in schools. Your position?
Yeah, you know, one of the things that's been really exciting in traveling around the Northwest Wisconsin area is that I've talked to teachers, and this crosses all boundaries in reality. What the media basically in the past has chosen to tell us is that, you know, that the teachers are are for Common Core, and that, you know, the Republicans are against it. That couldn't be further from the truth. In reality, a lot of the teachers are vocalizing, articulating to me that they never had a choice with Common Core. And they're concerned that, yes, we need a core of standards, just like we have in gymnastics, for each level that we move up. But the teachers want the creativity and the flexibility to be able to add to that core, and they're worried that they won't be able to. So I think we can do better, and I think that's really what Scott Walker is saying. Let's bring those standards back to Wisconsin. Let's develop them ourselves. We know what we need for our children and for our schools, and then we can move ahead, and those teachers will have the creativity and the flexibility to be able to improve their education and really choose the outcome for the children in their classrooms.
Transportation funding. To get anybody up to Northwest Wisconsin, you got to have good roads. Yet there's a projection that the next budget in transportation could be $600–700 million short. How should a deficit be fixed, sir?
I think one of the things is that, you know, we have a deficit already really right now, and we need to fix that. I mean, we don't need to kick that can down the road any further. One of the ways, you know, in any business in reality, you either are going to increase sales and have more revenue, or you're going to reduce your costs. You know, it's the same way with government, and I think that's one of the reasons why I'm running, is that as a businessman, I think we need to bring that common sense, that business sense, back to the government. And knowing that you can only cut so much, you have to find a way to increase revenue. And taxes isn't the only way. We need to find a way to actually focus on the jobs in the economy. And it isn't just jobs, but also maybe helping the schools like in Ladysmith and Rice Lake. They're starting the high school kids a lot earlier in terms of blue-collar jobs. Not every student or child is really necessarily has to go to college. A lot of them now are choosing to do, you know, a lot of blue-collar jobs, and some of them are graduating with certificates ready to go into the workforce, so which means that we're probably going to keep them more at home, which is part of our problem in the past, is losing those students to, you know, elsewhere and not keeping them in Northwest Wisconsin, and then helping them to be able to graduate from high school at the same time. Almost amazing. And we're seeing a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm that we haven't seen for a long time. So I'm very excited and optimistic about what we can do to help those students move into blue-collar jobs a lot earlier, and hopefully that will help us with the retention of students here at home.
Would you consider raising either the gas tax or the $75 that you and I pay to register our vehicle to help close this transportation funding deficit?
Well, I think it's going to be difficult to decide right now which is the best way to go. But I do know that there are some things coming up that people are proposing that I'm not necessarily supporting. I don't want to see any kind of tax or fee on our personal miles on our vehicle. If it came down to that, I would rather have a registration tax, because in that particular instance, it's more like a consumption tax, and you get a choice to pay for that. And as you see on my material on my website and on my cards, you know, I really do not want to see any more rising taxes. I think that we can actually help to increase the economy by attracting more businesses and keeping our children and the future workforce here at home. I think we can actually accomplish a lot of that.
Healthcare funding. As you know, 1 in 5 Wisconsin residents get their health care through our Medicaid program. The American Hospital Association says Wisconsin's Medicaid reimbursement rates are second lowest If you've studied the issue, do you think they should be increased?
You know, I have studied the issue, and I've talked with some administrators at some of the hospitals, and it's a very important issue. I think that it needs to be a priority. I support the reauthorization and strengthening of that program. I think I don't necessarily have a definitive answer for it right now, but I think that would be one of my top priorities as your next senator, to make sure that we address that, because 35 to 40 cents on every dollar is all that those hospitals are being reimbursed. And again, going right back to the business sense, if we're going to improve our economy and have that quality of growth there, we need to make sure that any business needs to make sure that they're getting paid for what the cost is, at least. In this case, we're not even covering the cost. So we need to find a solution for that. And again, I think that the business sense, the common sense, and the character that I'm leading with in this campaign is going to help to find that solution.
As you know, Governor Walker and leaders of the Assembly and Senate told the federal government, we don't want your money to expand Medicaid. Was that the right decision? I
think so. I think the key here is people are concerned about what happens. Right now at this moment, maybe they're saying they'll fund it. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. They could pull that funding, and then now we are and that's been one of the biggest concerns of a lot of citizens, is these unfunded mandates. They started out good, and then they kind of dwindled and dissolved, and then all of a sudden the state is held with the whole bag and the whole responsibility. And I think it's important that we grow the solutions for ourselves. We can do better, I think, for our own communities, and working together for Wisconsin, we can make ourselves a lot stronger.
There was a report this week that there could be a potential budget deficit of more than $1 billion in the next two-year budget. If there is a deficit, how would you fix it?
Yeah, I think in that particular instance, we've got so much opportunity, so much creativity and expertise in Northwest Wisconsin. As I've traveled around, we have some companies here that are the top of their game in the world, the highest caliber that you could have. And I think that we can solve this problem by increasing the number of jobs and helping to grow those companies. We need to cut some red tape. We need to make sure that we're streamlining some of those things that are going to allow business growth. The companies want to grow. We don't want to see that deficit continue. We want to make sure it increases. But as you know, we're going to have a huge problem and challenge in the future with the workforce that's declining right now and projected to decline. So we've got to find a way to attract other businesses. Otherwise, all we're going to do is add more challenges to it in the future.
There will be a bill introduced next session to legalize medical marijuana. Colorado and the state of Washington have legalized the recreational use of marijuana. Your positions on those issues?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I know there's a lot of debate out there in conversation right now. I'm a phy ed and health major, and so my answer to that is I do not support medical marijuana and or recreational use of marijuana. No and no.
Okay. It was an issue in the Democratic primary for Attorney General. First offense drunken driving, should it be a crime, sir?
Yeah, this is really a serious problem. I mean, the drunk driving is a serious problem. My concern is that if we made it a criminal offense, that is really not going to be a deterrent. As we all know, alcoholism is a disease. And people can't control themselves and because of that in many cases. So the bottom line is making it a criminal offense is not going to solve the problem. So in my particular instance, I think that we need to deal with the people, and so the first offense should not be a criminal offense.
Okay. I want to ask you about something on your campaign website because it's a federal issue, yet you listed it. All legal immigrants should embrace their duty and responsibility to become assimilated as citizens. To accomplish this goal, all legal immigrants must commit to learning the English language. That's a federal issue. Why is it such a priority you listed on your campaign site, sir?
I think that yes, it's a federal issue, but just as you see right now, they're actually flying some of these immigrants that are coming across the border on our south end to other areas of the country. And so it impacts the state. A lot of the things that are happening at the federal level trickle down to the state level and do have an impact here, so we should have some type of stance on that. Having spent 5 years in Turkey and 4 years in Caracas, Venezuela growing up, and 5 years in Turkey in the military, I know how important their borders are and how important their own culture is. And we need to make sure that we hold our culture and our standards here, and we secure our borders. People that want to come here and want to, for jobs, for future family, and all of that, they need to be able to abide by our laws, and they need to assimilate into our culture.
Okay. Thank you. And finally, I want to give you a chance to highlight differences between you and your opponent on November 4.
Sure. Number one, I'm a teacher. And we've had our own private school in a public sector, meaning it's open to the public for the last 24 years in Rice Lake, but we've been teachers for a lot longer than that. And it's been a wonderful experience. I'm a veteran. I have almost 8 years active duty and a couple of years in the reserves. And that particular issue helps me to understand some of the things that are going to trickle back to our nation. And yes, it impacts us all because we have warriors coming back from war now that impact our healthcare system and our economy locally. So it isn't necessarily just a national issue. I'm a businessman. I own 2 companies and a third that is part of one of the other ones. And business is what actually makes our whole economy turn. We know there are more small businessmen conglomerately throughout the United States than corporate business, large corporate businesses. And we need more businesses, more entrepreneurs. And there are a lot of the students that are graduating from high school are encouraged and hungry to become entrepreneurs. We need to make sure we're helping that move forward. I'm an Eagle Scout and a Scout leader. I think I'm pro-NRA, and Second Amendment is one of the most important things that we can hold dear in our country. I'm pro-life. I'm a conservative. My opponent is a progressive. And finally, I have a lot of experience with technology, being in the military. In the last 24 years, running a technology company out of Rice Lake, Wisconsin. We were one of the first wireless ISPs, and what that means is we gave people their internet wirelessly before a lot of the cell phone towers came out. And we did the same thing in Turkey in the 80s. We are just now approaching the point we were in Turkey, as modern as we were in 1987 to 89. And so I have the understanding of what it takes to bring broadband to rural areas. You can imagine that in Turkey we had a lot of distance between populations there. And finally, it isn't just about the speed and broadband availability. As you've heard with Target and Home Depot now, and Google and Apple, there is no one that is 100% secure on the internet. We need to have leaders in our legislature that understand the technological challenges that are going to be coming up, especially with cybersecurity. It is so critical to our infrastructure, to our banking, and almost anything you can think of. We actually have all of those things integrated now. So if we don't have people in legislature that are making good decisions and helping in the future for businesses to survive with cybersecurity, we will have some challenges we will never have thought of before.
Thank you. Dane Deutsch of Rice Lake is the Republican candidate in the 25th Senate District. Dane, thank you for talking to Wisconsin Eye.
Thank you, Steve. It was a privilege.
Thank you.